Have you ever said something that you shouldn't have? Maybe you did something that you shouldn't have. What was your first thought? Your first thought was probably, let me not say anything that incriminates myself. Maybe when you were questioned about it, you even threw up your hands and said, I plead the Fifth. This is the way that the Fifth Amendment is commonly included in casual conversations. And it's what the Fifth Amendment is most famous for, the right to not testify against yourself. It's included in scripts, in movies, and books, and even casual conversation. But the Fifth Amendment protects so much more than just your right not to testify against yourself. The Fifth Amendment protects your pathway to justice in the United States. Today I've drawn the topic of the Fifth Amendment, and we're going to talk about it through three separate points. One, the creation of it. Second, the development of it. And finally, third, the preservation of it. Let's start off with point one, the creation of the Fifth Amendment. In order to understand the Fifth Amendment, its purpose, and why it exists, we must rewind back in time, past even early revolutionary America to old medieval England. In this time, the king or the monarchy could throw whoever he wanted in jail, specifically his political enemies. So in the year 1215, a group of English citizens gathered together to pressure King John, the monarch at the time, to sign a document called the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta explicitly stated that every citizen should be given a trial before going to jail. The founding fathers loved this concept in the Magna Carta as former English citizens and wanted to copy this idea into the constitution of their new nation. And that is what inspired the writing of the Fifth Amendment. The founding fathers wanted to create a way to preserve justice for every citizen in the United States. But this leads me to my second point. Point two, development. The Fifth Amendment fittingly protects 5 separate rights of every American citizen. The first right is right to grand jury. This means that the government gathers together a group of unbiased citizens to see whether they have enough evidence to bring you to trial. This prevents over-prosecution in the United States for citizens, meaning that if there's not enough evidence against you, you don't have to go to trial in the United States. The second right that the Fifth Amendment protects is right to double jeopardy. This means that if today, after this competition, I went out and stole a cake from a bakery, went to trial for it, and was acquitted, they could not try me for that crime over and over and over. Again, this prevents over-prosecution in the United States for American citizens. The third right that the Fifth Amendment protects is right to not testify against yourself. This is the most popular thing that the Fifth Amendment is known for. The founding fathers included this clause because they wanted the burden of prosecution in the United States court system to be on, well, the prosecution, and not on the defendant himself to incriminate himself and make himself look guilty in trial. The fourth right that the Fifth Amendment protects is right to due process. This means that every citizen in the United States has the right to a fair trial. The fifth right that the Fifth Amendment protects is right to eminent domain, meaning that if the government needs to take your property, they must justly compensate you for that. For example, if I live near the highway and the government needs to take my house over to expand the highway, they must pay me for that. That limits the government and protects your property rights in the United States. This leads me to my third and final point. Point three, why does it matter, and preservation. Why does it matter that the 25th Amendment, that the Fifth Amendment exists? After all, most of you probably didn't even know each of these separate rights that the Fifth Amendment protects. Well, the Fifth Amendment protects your pathway to justice in the United States. James Madison, author of the Fifth Amendment and the Bill of Rights, once said that justice is the end goal of every government. And the founding fathers in the beginning of this nation had a vision that every American citizen, no matter who you are, what ethnic background you were, where you came from, what language you spoke, how much money you had, and what you did, every citizen would have a right to justice in this fair new government. The Fifth Amendment helps protect that vision that the founding fathers had when they wrote it into the Constitution. Thank you.